Okay, I want to welcome you to the Radar Applications course conducted by the National Weather Service Warning Decision Training Division here in Norman. Now, the primary purpose of RAC is to train weather service forecasters, that is, the meteorologists and hydrologists, on the use of the radar in the forecast and warning decision-making process. In this orientation session, we're going to cover the federal instructors, history of the course, the Commerce Learning Center, which you'll do all your weather service training on, not just RAC, the West 2 Bridge, which is an AWIP simulator, which we do lots of practice on for RAC. Talk about that. Talk about RAC's objectives and learning objectives versus performance objectives in the quizzes. Give a rundown of all the course topics and the content embedded within them, and then how you can get support for the class. And as I go through this, if you have any questions along the way, don't hesitate to stop and ask me. I'm going to open the floor at the very end, but if you have questions before then, by all means, go ahead and stop us and ask them. Here's all the federal instructors, all 6 of us right here. There's Justin, Brad, Jim, Mike, Barbara, and I'm on the bottom right there. There's our pictures and contact information. But I want to emphasize that we do not run this course by ourselves. We have lots of background help from our SIMS staff, our SIMS contract, OU contract employees. Andy Wood helps run our LMS. He helps run the CLC LMS and also our web page and does lots of content. Chris Spinagle, he's my right-hand man when it comes to workshop and case collection and other stuff. And we have a whole other slew of SIMS employees. So I just want to point out, emphasize, this is not a one, not just the 6 of us. We get lots of help. Couldn't do without them. Okay, history of this course. It's been around since 1990. In fact, one of the very first classes up there in the top right. You see a lot of the earliest Weather Service SUs in that top picture up there. Back then it was called the WSR 80D Operations Course. It ran between 1990 and 1997, and it was before the Internet, so it was basically a 3.5-week in-residence course in Norman. You did everything in residence. In 1997, when all that, the big wave of all the Weather Service forecasters coming through and taking it, and believe me, during that time, I was an instructor here back in the mid-'90s. We had triple classes going simultaneously at one point to get everybody through. It was really busy. But then in 97, when the great wave passed through, we kind of went into more just maintenance mode for new Weather Service hires. And as you recall, the Distance Learning Operations course, or DLOC, and it ran from 97 to 2015. It was over 100 hours of training, most of it distance. And for the first 2 years of that, there was no workshop, and that turned out to be a real disaster. Even to this day, there's a lot of Weather Service forecasters that bemoan the fact they never got their workshop, and some of them come back as experienced forecasters through our current version of the course. But anyway, after those first 2 years were a disaster as far as not having the workshop, getting that hands-on with the instructors, the workshop was added as a 1 week. At the conclusion of DLOC, and it was held in Boulder from 2000 to 2004. So the students would meet in Boulder, and us instructors would fly up from Norman to Boulder, and we did that from 2000 to 2004. And then it was moved back to Norman in 2005 for a couple of years, and then when the National Weather Center building opened in 2006 or 7, we've held them in our fourth floor classroom here ever since. In 2015, I became project manager, and we renamed it the Radar and Applications course. Just a simple name change. It's the same basic format as DLOC. We do some updates every year in the course, but there was no major radical change there. Just we wanted to give a name that's much more descriptive of what the course actually is. Distance Learning Operations course is kind of, everybody says, well, what exactly is that? Distance learning for what? Operations? What kind of operations? So we did that name change. Made the same format as DLOC. Now, the Commerce Learning Center. We use it extensively in RAC. We use it to track your completions for each part of RAC. Now, it's so commonly going to be used during RAC that we recommend you bookmark that address. It's listed right there on your screen. https://doc.csodm.com. Now, most of the lessons our online training that you will launch directly from the CLC. Now, there's other training, such as AWIPS fundamentals and a couple other things, that's going to be taken on your local warning event simulator machine, West 2. I'll expand on that in a minute. But even for that, you still need to come back to the CLC and take some action in order to show up as complete in your training record. Now, the RAC curriculum in the CLC contains 3 instructor-led training events. The first 2 are webinars, just like this presentation, this orientation session here. And the third is the RAC workshop. Now, you're going to need to sign up for all 3 in the CLC first. And then lastly, there's the AWIPS proficiency exam. This exam is completed locally at your office and mailed to WTD. And once we receive your exam, we'll mark you as complete in the CLC. And it sounds like I'm going through pretty fast. We'll talk about these things more in just a minute. Now, your RAC curriculum is your path to course completion. You take most of the topics. We want you to take most of these topics in order. You take the topics and the lessons embedded within them in order. It just makes the most sense. The exception is kind of the AWIPS fundamentals. It's its own standalone course. You can wait until right before warning fundamentals to take that one. But all the rest of them, we want you to take them in order. It just makes more logical sense for you. You also, the RAC curricula, like I said, used to register for teletraining, register for your workshops, and also track your progress. Now, how are you going to view this? Google Chrome is the preferred browser for the CLC. Safari also works for mobile applications, so if you're taking some of these lessons on your mobile device, on your tablet, or heck, even on your smartphone, Safari works okay as well. You can try to use other browsers, but they may have issues, particularly with Flash, we found, so we just recommend Chrome, really. Now, if you have your pop-up blockers on, you may have a few problems. You will not see the presentations appear when you select them unless you create an exemption for the CLC and also, to a certain extent, WTD's websites. And you can kind of see what that screen looks like. The bottom right of this slide, that's the Settings tab in Chrome, and you go down there to the Allow section, and you basically whitelist both the CLC and training.weather.gov, which includes WTD's website. West 2 Bridge. It's a weather event simulator for AWIPS 2. You will use it during both the distance learning and residence workshop lab portions of RAC. Your point of contact is pictured right there. It's Dale Morris at NOAA.gov, and that's him in our lab using the warning event simulator, the West 2 Bridge. And that's what our web page looks like. If you go to our Warning Decision Training Division web page, you go to Training Tools, and you click on West 2 Bridge, you'll see this entire page, which shows the status, the latest build, support, known issues. It's a good one-stop shop reference-wise for West 2 Bridge. All the offices out there should have the latest version of West 2 Bridge up and running, and it should be readily available at your site. Or if you're some of our CSUs kind of have to go to their parent WFO, they can get it there. Now, in RAC, we have different types of training. We present training materials in different ways. Some are self-paced modules on the Internet. Others are recorded articulate modules where the instructor's voice is paired with relevant images, kind of like what I'm doing now. Another method is via live teletraining sessions where you and your classmates go through material together with a WTD instructor. Now, you've got to pre-register for each teletraining session via the RAC curriculum and the CLC and take it at the scheduled time. Now, each RAC lesson contains learning and or performance objectives, and we often get the question, what's the difference between a learning objective and a performance objective? What's the difference? Aren't they the same? No, not quite, really. It's important to know the difference. Learning objective is an outcome statement that captures specifically what knowledge, skills, and attitudes you, the learner, should be able to exhibit following the instruction. We assess these in RAC via end-lesson quizzes. Performance objectives, on the other hand, performance objective is a statement that clearly describes the behavior or performance you, the learner, are expected to exhibit as a result of the training. We assess these performance objectives via the AWIPS West exercises, oftentimes facilitated by your training facilitator. The AWIPS proficiency exam, also proctored by your training facilitator, and the RAC workshop lab led by us WTD instructors. So like you can see on that picture at the bottom right, one of us instructors in our lab teaching one of the RAC students at our workshop. End-of-lesson quizzes. Each distance learning module has an end-of-lesson quiz. It must be completed on the Commerce Learning Center in order to receive credit for course completion. It's taken at your office. Passing score is either 70% or 80%, depending on what the lesson creator went with. Let's discuss the RAC topics. And this first one, like I said, is the AWIPS Convective Warning Fundamentals. But it's also its own standalone course. We kind of marry it with RAC because it's a requirement for RAC, so it also works as its own standalone course. Anyway, this course develops fundamental radar and warning proficiency with AWIPS. You will need this when you start implementing RAC training in the RAC warning decision-making exercises and simulations in the workshop primer and the workshops. Now, all RAC students must take it, including the experienced ones, because it's important that everyone have the same WTD-approved skill set and be on the same page when they work together as a warning team in our workshop simulations and scenarios. Sometimes in RAC, we have some experienced forecasters say, well, I already know AWIPS left and right. Why do I have to do this? Well, it's because you may see new things, new products, new tools that you don't commonly use, and you don't want to come here and not know how to use those tools. It slows up the rest of your classmates and your warning event team. Now, the delivery method is a blend of VLab and West 2 Bridge. Most of the VLab web pages and job sheets are taken on live AWIPS, which will be version 17.3.1 for most sites and 18.1.1 for others. Now, the practice videos must be taken on the West 2 Bridge and will require the 17.3.1 West 2 Bridge, which is planned to be released later in October of 2018, which is later this month, really. Now, you can start the intro module and the VLab part of the AWIPS 17.3.1 Convective Warning Fundamentals on October 15th. That's when the course's update is expected to be released. Expect both VLab and West 2 Bridge exercises to take anywhere from 15 to 30 hours, depending on how fast you want to go after it and if you want to do, kind of review it. In the future, you will likely not have much time for AWIPS training, so this really is a unique opportunity to develop a deep and solid foundation of AWIPS needed for warning decision-making. Okay, the WES exercises cover AWIPS applications that you will use in warning decision-making in your job. Got panel combo rotate, 4-dimensional storm scale investigator, or FSI, flash flood monitoring and prediction, or FFMP, scan, and warn gen. It's important for you to develop a basic proficiency with these different AWIPS tools, even if your current office doesn't really use all of them, because you'll likely use these at some point, different offices at some point in your career, and you're going to need the latest exposure to all these tools to make an informed decision about what tools ultimately work best for you. So you must develop a basic proficiency with these before you take the workshop primer and before you arrive here at the RAC workshop. Now, you will see the AWIPS proficiency exam listed in the assignment in the CLC. It's a timed paper exam administered by your training facilitator. The facilitator will observe your performance of specific AWIPS tasks, and you will need to achieve a passing score of at least 70% on the exam to receive credit. You may retake the exam at the discretion of your local training facilitator. You want to make sure they're happy because you're the one, you're going into their hot seat. They're going to make sure that you're up and running, you're good to go before they put you on the hot seat during warning operations or anything else for that matter. So once complete, your training facilitator must send the grade exam back to us here at WTD. I can't even say it, WDTD. I always trip up on that. And how do you do it? Well, you can scan it and email it, or you can send it via snail mail. You want to send it to Mike Mogzig. His email address is listed right there. And he's going to be the one who actually physically goes into the CLC and marks you complete. You must complete the AWIBS proficiency exam before the workshop primer and the workshop, but you don't need to complete it before starting other RAC topics. Any questions on that? Before I continue on, I'd stop and do a pause here and see if there's any general questions about the material I've covered to this point. Are you with this, Mike? Do you have anything to add to this? Okay. Now, AWIBS fundamentals and WES exercises. We plan to ship those later in October, later this month, when the 17.3.1 WES 2 Bridge software development is complete. You're going to receive this in the mail. It's going to contain the 17.3.1 WES 2 Bridge software, some event cases, data cases, and other support materials, including the applied performance drill videos and AWIBS proficiency test. Now, because 17.3.1 is a baseline for this year's RAC workshops, the 17.3.1 WES 2 Bridge is a requirement for RAC. This will still give you about 3 or 4 months to complete the AWIBS components of the course before the workshops begin in late January. Okay, the first topic you will see listed in your curriculum after that is the introduction to the WSR 8D system. It basically covers the overall system description, covering the equipment groups, including the RDA and RPG, delivery methods, self-guided web module, completion times about an hour. Next topic after that, principles of meteorological Doppler radar. This is how the 8D collects, quality controls, and processes the data into products using the RPG. Basically proceeds through the lessons in order, delivery method, instructor-guided web modules, completion times about 7 hours. Next comes velocity interpretation, how to interpret both large-scale and small-scale velocity patterns, be it like the S pattern over our top of the radar, which indicates warm air advection or shear, or maybe a small-scale velocity pattern such as a microburst or a mesocyclone or a tornado vortex signature. Delivery method, instructor-guided web modules, completion time is about an hour. Then comes base and derived products. Basically covers all the products and the algorithms that generate them. And believe me, there's a slew of them. There's lots and lots of products. Delivery method, instructor-guided web modules. And there's also an instructor-led training session, 2 hours long. Completion time is 10 hours for this. And here in the lessons in this topic are organized into these sections. There's kind of the breakdown for you. The final lesson down there in that red, once again, that's the products review and case study. It's an instructor-led training session. You must pre-register for it in the CLC. There's going to be 7 sessions offered this year. You just got to sign up and take one of them. And it's going to be led by Justin Gibbs, and Andy Wood. Next is winter. This talks about precipitation type analysis. For example, you use dual pole to say, is it falling as rain? Is it falling as ice pellets? Is it falling as snow? What type of precipitation is this? Also, there's information about how to count for errors in the snowfall accumulation algorithm. Maybe the algorithm says it's, we've had 7 inches falling, and it's really more like 10 or 12. Delivery method, instructor-guided web modules, completion time about an hour. Then comes a biggie, convective storm structure and evolution. This is thunderstorms and all things severe. I mean, the 88D was sold, back in the early 1990s. This radar was sold on its ability to detect severe storms. So, yeah, it's kind of important. Now, we do have a handful of prerequisites for this. Before we can actually get into this topic and cover the materials, we want you to take COMET module, the SKU-T Mastery, and also another module that we've kind of created ourselves, Hodograph Essentials for Convective Storms. We found that students that come through here sometimes are a little weak on SKU-Ts and Hodographs, particularly as they apply to severe convective storms. So we want to make sure you have a thorough understanding of SKU-Ts and Hodographs and the environment of these storms before you get deep into this subject. You're also going to take the multi-radar, multi-sensor, or MRMS products course. A lot of weather service forecasters already took it a couple, 3, 4 years ago, but for you new guys, for you new meteorologists, forecasters, and hydrologists in the weather service, you need to have those products down. Hopefully they make your life simpler. And then operational severe weather diagnostic parameters. That's another one we've created here locally at WTD. Basically, it covers all of the Storm Prediction Center's hourly mesoscale analysis products, including what is CAPE, what is SIN, what is mixed layer CAPE, what is mid-level lapse rate, what is the significant tornado parameter, what is DCAPE, et cetera, et cetera. It's all about that. It helps provide a common language for all the tools and indices used in severe convective storms. Got to get that down. And then you actually get into the raw lessons. Talks about basic severe storms theory and lots of applications. We have some applied performance drills. Basically, we do stuff like, okay, here, how do you determine storm top divergence? Can you calculate it? Can you identify tornado vortex signature? Can you identify a mark signature? All that stuff. We'll teach you how to do that, and we'll have hands-on drills, the applied performance drills, where you say, okay, that's your turn. Now you calculate. You find this signature. Completion time for all this is about 12 hours. And then we skip on to the next topic, flash floods. It covers concepts, products, and tools useful for flash flood forecasting and decision-making. The prerequisites, the RMMS Hydro Products course, the Flash Products course, delivery method, instructor-guided web modules, completion times about 2.5 hours. And then we do the warning fundamentals. Our newest employee here, Barbara Mays Bausted, has done lots of new modules on that. She's done lots of good work on that. This is basically polygonology and how to word your warnings. It's everything about the warnings and making sure that you get the warnings down, and then our different situations, and you know how to draw them, and you know all the considerations. Make sure you don't leave slivers in your warnings. Make sure you know how to draw for like a tornado embedded within a QLCS, et cetera, et cetera. Delivery method, instructor-guided web modules, and there's also going to be an instructor-led training session at the end of this. It's basically a combination of convective storm topic and warning fundamentals topic grouped together. I'm going to be one leading that. Completion time's 4 hours, and the ILT that I'm going to lead is going to be about 2 hours. And here's the breakdown. She's got different sections, how to draw the warning, the fundamentals, additional considerations, complex scenarios for drawing the warning polygons, how to include impact-based warning information, what to do after the warning is issued, how do you do continuation stations, cancellations, and expirations. And there's some impact-based warning exercises, and like I said, there's also the convective storm and warning fundamentals combined, that ILT, which is about 2 hours. Now, one very important exercise that will prepare you for the week of simulation nirvana you're about to experience at the workshop is the workshop primer. In this catalyst for the workshop, you will start to put everything together to issue warnings in the West. And you get a head start on using the workshop procedures. You're going to see the workshop AWIS procedures you're going to see when you get here for the workshop. Now, just like Mike Mogzig is showing there, the videos will play on one monitor. So you'll see an instructor on one side showing you how to do it. And you'll practice the same steps on the other monitor. The workshop primer should be completed the week before the workshop, so you're prepared to maximize your growth in the workshop. So please don't do the workshop primer. We want you to do it the week before you come for the workshop. That way it's fresh in your mind, and we want you to be lean and mean ready when you're ready to come into the workshop. So you're up and ready to go for issuing warnings. And we can work on your higher order warning forecaster skills. Now, the workshop primer is going to be released later in 2018, well before you need to take it. The earliest anybody should be taking it. Even workshop 1 is not going to be until mid-January. And there's a picture of Mike. He's really committed to making this an effective exercise, so don't hesitate to contact him if you have any questions or problems setting it all up, running the simulation, or have some general questions about the tools or the decision-making. He really wants to hear from you, and there's his contact information. And then the RAC workshop. The workshop is the culmination of RAC. It brings together everything you've learned and more into a laboratory and simulation environment. Now, most of your time at the workshop is going to be in a lab. Typically, you'll work with two of the warning forecasters and go through events and displays real-time together. Now, the sessions during the workshop include Warning Decision and You, which is basically the Monday morning, and you can see what our classroom looks like there in the bottom right. Warning Decision and You, why are we here? Why are we issuing warnings? Why are warnings important to the Weather Service? And then the rest of that first day that you're here for the workshop is all about warning methodology, showing you a process by which you can issue warnings effectively and how to use Warn Gen, get you up to speed on getting your hands dirty on that. And then we'll do mini scenarios. Basically, that's where we each of our 8 warning teams gets their own individual scenario simulation that's kind of paused, and you're supposed to look at all the data leading up to that point and what the weather looks like at that point and make a warning decision. Should I warn, yay or nay? If I issue a warning, what type? Severe, tornado, what should the polygon look like? What should I say in the warning, et cetera, et cetera. And students have a lot of fun with that, and they have presentations where they give a presentation to the rest of the class about their case so we can all learn together. And then flash flood forecasting. You can go back in the classroom, and you're going to have Joe Hardy giving you a talk about flash flood forecasting, lasts about an hour. And then we'll have Flash Flood Lab, Part 1 and then Part 2. We used to just have Part 1, but we added Part 2 last year because the flash flood using the flash and FFMP and issuing flash flood warnings is one of the biggest issues our students face. They tell that they have great problems with that, so we really want to cover it really well here at the RAC workshop. That's why we have Part 1 and Part 2. And then warning issuance, we'll have lots of simulation scenarios. In fact, the last half of your workshop is nothing but simulation scenarios. We've got 4 of them at various locations across the country. Basically, you're broken up into warning teams of 3, and it's your job to issue warnings for your CWA. And it's an event played back in case review mode. Then we have communication team dynamics. That's where one of the meteorologist instructors from the Weather Service Training Center in Kansas City comes down and gives you a talk about the importance of communicating and working effectively as a team. There's going to be some new material for that one this year. And nobody can come to the National Weather Center and not visit SPC or hear about the hazardous weather test bed. So we're going to take you over as a group on one morning at the shift change for SPC, and you're going to meet with the SPC forecasters. They're going to introduce themselves to you, and they're going to tell you what they do, and you're going to meet and greet them, and you're going to see their operations area, and hopefully you start a positive experience early in your career with these guys. You're going to be coordinating with them a lot during your career for like watches and such. And then the hazardous weather test bed, that's an exciting chance for you maybe to come back in the future to help with experiments where the hazardous weather test bed folks show you new tools or techniques or visualization software for the forecast and also the warning side of your job. And that's be a chance for you to interact with scientists and media and other weather service folks from across the country. It's a great melting pot. Now, prerequisites. Everything's going to have a prerequisite here, and the workshop is definitely one. You must complete all distance learning components before you may attend the workshop, including the lesson quizzes, AWIP's proficiency exam, the WES exercise, and then the workshop primer. We really want you to arrive at the workshop warning ready, including AWIP's knobology and Warn Gen fundamentals. We want you to get all the basics out of the way so you can work on your higher order warning forecaster skills at the workshop with one of us WTD instructors. Usually we do 1 instructor per 3 students. But anyway, just like that graphic is, put me in, coach, I'm ready to play. I've been properly trained and practiced, and now I'm ready to apply my skills. Delivery method, well, it's in residence here at the National Weather Center in Norman. There's a picture of our building up there in the top right. We have 5 workshops this year. The past handful of years it's been 4, but because there's been a higher resurgence in the Weather Service, we're up to 5 now. There's all 5 of them. The first one begins in early January, and the last one ends at the end of March. Registration is going to open today, Friday, October 5th, today at 20 Zulu, 3 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Eastern. So what is that? That's it's 2 p.m. Mountain Time, 1 p.m. West Coast time, and late morning out there in Alaska and Hawaii. And Barbara's behind me laughing her head off here. Hopefully got them all down there. Anyway, that's going to be after we have one more orientation session after this. It's session 7. It ends at 20 Zulu. So as soon as that last orientation session is over, we're going to open up so you can register for the ILTs and the workshop. Now, I want to point out if only one week for the workshop works for you, register early. The workshops tend to fill up pretty fast. So if you wait a week or two, you may just be left with whatever's left, which may or may not be the week you really wanted. So, yeah, register early. Now, the workshop, it's 40 hours. It's a full week. In fact, you're going to need to fly in to Norman at Will Rogers World Airport and take the shuttle bus or whatever to get to the hotel by Sunday evening. The course begins at 8 o'clock Monday morning. It does not end until 5 p.m. on Friday afternoon. Because of the flight schedules, it takes an hour to drive up to Will Rogers. You've got to go through security. Probably the earliest you could realistically take a flight out of Will Rogers is probably 7:30, 8 o'clock. So because of that, many students will not be able to fly home until Saturday. So we've got that budget. We have that extra night built in case you need it. Lodging. There's the hotel that you're going to see up there in the top right, and what the room looks like in the bottom right, and the lobby and all that. The lodging will be at the National Center for Employee Development, or NCED, Conference Center and Hotel, located 3 miles east of the National Weather Center building here in Norman. Now, most of the hotel's guests you're going to be sleeping with in there, most of those hotel guests, those are Postal Service employees working for the United States Postal Service in training. They're there in training as students at the NCED training facility in the same grounds there across the street. To the bottom left there is where they do their training. So basically, if you're a technician in the U.S. Postal Service and you're out there to fix a stamp machine or a mail sorter or whatever, if you're in the technology business, you do your training right there. It's a great facility. It really is. It has its own cafeteria, has its own bar, has its own ping pong table, its own gymnasium, its own swimming pool, its own obstacle course. In fact, we've actually had team building exercises in the obstacle course, the outdoor obstacle course out there for some of our Sioux. Some of you Sioux may remember the team building exercises we've done out there. So it's a hell of a facility. In fact, I remember some years ago I was actually there, and they were eating dinner there. And I was talking to one of the Postal Center employees right there, and they turned to me and they said, I was about ready to retire from the Postal Center or the Postal Service, but I had to get one more vacation in. That's how much they thought of that facility. Yeah, also, one of the bad things is it's kind of the extreme southeast edge of Norman itself, and some people say, I'm too far away from stuff. They have a very good shuttle bus service there, by the way. They will shuttle you from the Will Rogers Airport to the hotel and back and forth. They also have shuttle buses up to the downtown Oklahoma City Bricktown Entertainment District. They have lots of clubs and bars and comedy clubs, and the Oklahoma City Thunder play there. We hold these workshops during basketball season, so usually there's students that want to go up there and catch a Thunder game if they're in town. They also will take the shuttle. They'll shuttle you to like Sooner Mall if you want. So they're very good about shuttling people around. So you shouldn't feel trapped. And we have a contract with them to shuttle you to and from our classes every day. So you really don't need a car. Some students drive, but you really won't absolutely need it because of that shuttle bus service. Now, you'll be asked to provide us, WTD, with your travel information when you register for a workshop in the RAC Curriculum section of your Weather Service CLC account. So Kelly Thomason, our program analyst here, he's told me that the travel authorization codes should arrive in early December. So that's the kind of information that whoever does travel at your office will need those travel codes from them. That'll come in early December. And Kelly will coordinate this later on with your travel person at your office. Now, note that most students have been assigned meteorologist track of this course, but a few, there's a handful here that are just taking the hydro track, and there's the difference in the course curriculum. Basically, the hydro people stop at Basin Drive Products, but those taking the meteorologist track, and there's 120 of you, they go all the way through the workshop. The hydro people stop there after the Basin Drive Products. The last possible ILT Session 7 for that is on December 20th. So de facto, the hydro track completion deadline is December 20th because that's when the 7th and final ILT session is held. Let's give a little rundown here of the teletraining. Teletraining means we train live over the internet, just like what you're doing now. After this orientation session is over, you will have 2 more of these. You will have one at the end of the Basin Drive Products topic and one at the end of Warning Fundamentals topic. And there's 2 steps that you need to follow to register. First of all, step 1, register for the ILT session of your choice in the Commerce Learning Center curriculum, your curriculum. Each student must register individually to receive credit in the CLC, even if multiple students in the same office attend the same session. You want to register at least 24 hours in advance because of step number 2. After you register in the CLC, you're going to get an email from the CLC with your instructions in your, quote, approval, unquote, email sent by the CLC. And you're going to see instructions about how to register for the accompanying GoToMeeting webinar. Now, if this email hasn't arrived within 24 hours, you want to contact us. That's seldom if ever happens. But if you register in the CLC and you don't get that follow-up email for how to register in the GoToMeeting, just contact us and we'll try to figure it out for you. And some protocol for you here. When you do these 2 ILTs, you want to dedicate time for your session. Hopefully you have it built into your whoever does the schedule at your office has a built-in training time for this. You want to be able to put the Do Not Disturb sign in. And you want to use headsets if you can. Keep your phones muted. Don't put us on hold. That's an important one. If you put us on hold, oftentimes everybody listening on that ILT will hear the NOAA All Hazards radio, and it just destroys LT for everybody else, and it kind of causes problems. We have to call to your office and ask you to take us off hold and put us on mute, or we have to call the GoToMeeting people and say, please remove this person, blah, blah, blah. So please always leave your phones muted, not on hold. And expect lots of interaction. I mean, the ILT you're not supposed to be getting any new material in these ILTs. It's to reinforce training you've already had. So expect lots of direct questions for you, quiz questions. You may be asked to annotate features. Expect lots of interaction, and this is your chance to ask us questions. If there's something that happened in the training material that you don't understand, this is your best time to ask us directly. And don't be afraid to ask questions because there may be another person, another student that has the same question who's just too afraid to ask. Now, you facilitators, you have many important actions as well. Training facilitators play a critical role. The training facilitator, you guys must coordinate the scheduling of training events. Make sure that your student has training shifts. Monitor your students' progress. Make sure they're staying up, keeping the pace up. And provide time and support and reach out to us here at WTD if necessary. I mean, your training facilitators are partner in all this, and we really want you to have a great training experience. Some more facilitator actions. Facilitators must also install and test the WEX exercise materials and proctor the AWIPS proficiency test. Testing instructions will be provided in the AWIPS Fundamentals, that mailing we're going to send out to you. Many of you Sues and Does know this procedure, this drill already, but sometimes it's good for that to be reinforced. For those of you who are new Sues, instructions on what to do, for how to load up, all that stuff is going to be sent to you via the mail, and you can always contact us directly. Now, I want to emphasize it's really important for the Warning Event Seminar, the WES 2, to be set up and ready and working for when the student needs it. It's very frustrating for students to say, I'm ready to do my applied performance drills or my WES exercises, but I can't. Where's the WES 2 in my office? Does it have the materials loaded? Is it good to go? It can be very frustrating. So work with your ITO and your SU. Students work with your ITO and SU to make sure it's up and running before you need it. And we're going to have guidance provided with the AWIPS Fundamentals release on that too. Now, RAC will expose you to a wide variety of meteorological phenomena and tools, many of which may be new to you. For example, you might be in an office that experiences very little severe weather or very little winter weather, or one that doesn't have flash flood monitoring and prediction tool, or whatever. Now, the fundamentals you will learn as a new Weather Service meteorologist taking RAC will likely be used later in your career, probably in the next few years as you advance on to other offices. Thus, it's really important to you, it's to your benefit to take ownership over all the materials in this course. Here's a quickie look at upcoming events, and get used to this format. I'm going to be doing pretty frequent status updates that include upcoming events as reminders for you. First thing on that list is the registration opens for those 2 instructor-led trailer training sessions and the workshop. That opens at 20 Zulu today. And then RAC officially begins on Wednesday the 10th. Andy Wood, our CLC focal point, he's kind of been busily creating these RAC curriculum, and he should have everything up and done by Wednesday. He's also told us that he'll make sure everybody can register for the ILTs and the workshop by 20 Zulu a day. He'll at least have that much of your curriculum done. He'll have the entire curriculum done by Wednesday. Okay. The olive green that you see there, those are the orientation sessions, and the workshops are listed in blue. And like I said, each status update that I transmit to everybody will include upcoming events in a similar format to this, just make sure everybody's on the same page. Now, I want to emphasize, RAC is a huge course. It's a huge course. It's over 100 hours of training. And all the distance learning must be completed before a student is permitted to attend the RAC workshop. Thus, it's really important to stay on pace. It takes a big time commitment from the student, and support for that time commitment from the students' coworkers and the management team. Me, the RAC project manager, Bobby Prentice, I'm going to send frequent RAC status updates. I'm going to do them at least every 2 weeks in October and November, and as we approach the workshop time later in December and January, I'm going to start issuing them more like on a weekly basis. And whenever I send these status updates, once the courses begin later on, I'm going to include a RAC training completion report and the number of lesson completions a student should have at that point in order to stay on pace in the course. If you notice any discrepancies, any problems with your RAC training completion report, like you look and you say, wait a second, I finished this lesson, I'm positive, I've got proof, then contact us here in the RAC help list and we'll get that fixed. Now, the RAC webpage, our RAC webpage is a good source of course information and support. Now note that although the course outline has links to lessons on our WT website and the CLC, you must access the lessons from your RAC curriculum on the CLC to receive credit. So just take the quizzes on the CLC to get credit in the CLC. You can see the lessons here, but if you want credit, take the quiz in the CLC. Now, there are 3 sources of support for RAC. Your first line of defense is the officers, or is your office's, training facility. That's usually going to be your SU or your DOE. Next, the RAC help email list, which contacts the entire WTD RAC team. Now, this is a better option for general inquiries and quick responses. For example, the instructors out of the office. And so I'll give an example of that. If you try to email, for example, me, and if I'm on leave that day, if I'm sick or I'm on TDY or whatever, if I'm out of the office, you wouldn't get nearly the fast response you get on the RAC help page. So that's the preferred one. But you can always contact the RAC instructors directly, just like you're seeing right here. That's the severe hail module, the severe hail lesson, I should say, and you can see a link to my email address right there. And then finally, all of us, on the entire team here, we're on the NOAA.gov staff directory, so you can always get our phone number or our email address directly off of that. Questions? I know that's been a lot, but nobody's had questions so far.